In the pouring rain of a forgotten autumn evening, where the sky wept endlessly over the cracked sidewalks of Willow Creek, a young girl named Alara clutched her tattered coat against the relentless downpour, her shoes soaked through to the bone as she hurried home from another fruitless day of job hunting. The world around her blurred into a gray haze of indifference, cars splashing puddles onto her legs, strangers brushing past without a glance, but then she saw him, an old man, frail and trembling, standing at the edge of a busy crosswalk, his cane slipping on the slick pavement as horns blared impatiently. Without a second thought, Alara abandoned her path, rushing to his side, her arm linking with his in a silent act of compassion that would unknowingly alter the course of her shattered life forever. If this story of unexpected kindness already tugs at your heartstrings, and if you believe in the power of second chances and the ripple effects of a single good deed, then please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your own act of kindness, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of humanity's warmth, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more stories that celebrate the beauty in everyday compassion. Alara's world had always been one of quiet desperation, hidden behind the faded brick walls of a small town where dreams went to wither like unpicked apples in an overgrown orchard. At just 19, she carried the weight of responsibilities that would crush most adults. Her mother, bedridden from a lingering illness that no doctor in Willow Creek could afford to treat properly, relied on Alara for everything from meals scraped together from food bank donations to the meager rent payments that kept their leaky apartment from eviction. Her father had vanished years ago, leaving behind only echoes of arguments and unpaid bills, forcing Alara to drop out of high school in her junior year to work odd jobs, scrubbing floors at the local diner until her hands bled, delivering newspapers in the pre-dawn chill, or picking up shifts at the grocery store where the manager's leering eyes made her skin crawl. Each day blurred into the next, a monotonous grind of survival where hope was a luxury she couldn't afford, and the town's gossip painted her as the poor Jenkins girl, a label that stung like salt in open wounds. Yet, beneath her weary exterior, Alara harbored a quiet fire, a resilience born from watching her mother's faded smiles and remembering the bedtime stories of far-off places where kindness was rewarded, even if reality screamed otherwise. The old man she helped that rainy evening was a mystery wrapped in weathered clothes and a stooped posture that spoke of decades bent over the earth. His name was Harlan Whitaker, though Alara didn't know it then. To her, he was just another soul battling the elements, his white hair plastered to his forehead, his eyes clouded with what she assumed was age or sorrow. As she guided him across the street, her arms steady under his frail grip, the traffic lights flickered like hesitant stars, and the rain drummed a symphony on the umbrellas of passers-by who didn't pause to notice. Harlan muttered something under his breath, gratitude, perhaps, or a fragment of a forgotten prayer, but Alara only smiled faintly, her mind already racing ahead to the cold dinner waiting at home and the utility bill that loomed like a storm cloud. She helped him to the safety of the opposite curb, where he paused, his hand lingering on hers for a moment longer than necessary, his gaze piercing through the veil of water as if seeing something deeper in her tired eyes. Then, with a nod, he shuffled away into the shadows of the alley, leaving Alara to continue her solitary trek, unaware that this fleeting encounter had planted the seed of a miracle in the barren soil of her existence. Days turned into weeks, and Alara's struggles deepened like roots seeking water in parched ground. Her mother's condition worsened, the coughs that once came in sporadic bursts now rattled through the thin walls of their apartment night after night, each one a dagger to Alara's heart. The medications were running low, and the pharmacy clerk's sympathetic shrugs did nothing to ease the panic rising in her chest. The cost was astronomical, a sum that might as well have been a fortune from another world. Work at the diner grew scarcer as the owner cut hours to save on costs, forcing Alara to scavenge for aluminum cans along the roadside or sell handmade trinkets at the weekend market, her fingers raw from weaving scraps of yarn into bracelets that sold for pennies. Loneliness crept in like fog over the fields, isolating her from the few friends she once had, who now whispered about her family's misfortunes as if poverty were contagious. Nights found her staring at the ceiling, tears silent on her cheeks, wondering if this was all life had to offer. The endless cycle of want and weariness, where every step forward was met with 2 steps back. Yet, in the quiet moments, she replayed that rainy evening, the old man's grateful touch a small beacon in her sea of darkness, reminding her that even in hardship, she could still choose to be kind. Unbeknownst to Alara, Harlan Whitaker was no ordinary wanderer, he was the reclusive owner of Whispering Acres, the largest farm in Willow Creek, a sprawling estate of golden fields and bountiful orchards that supplied half the county's produce. For years, Harlan had lived in self-imposed isolation after the tragic loss of his wife and only son in a car accident decades ago, his wealth accumulating like dust on forgotten shelves while he shunned the town's social circles, preferring the company of his loyal farmhands and the rhythm of the seasons. His fortune was legendary in hushed tones, rumors of hidden vaults filled with gold from wise investments, vast lands that could feed armies, but Harlan's heart had grown as barren as winter soil, scarred by grief and distrust. That rainy day, however, something shifted. Alara's unprompted help pierced through his armor, evoking memories of his late wife's gentle nature, stirring emotions he thought long buried. From the shadows of his grand but empty farmhouse, Harlan began to watch, discreetly inquiring about the girl who had aided him, learning of her plight through the grapevine of small-town whispers. Guilt gnawed at him. How could he, with his abundance, ignore such pure-hearted suffering? Slowly, a plan formed in his mind, one that would test the boundaries of fate and repay a debt he felt deep in his soul. As winter's chill descended on Willow Creek, blanketing the town in frost that mirrored Alara's frozen hopes, subtle changes began to weave into her life like threads of dawn light. It started small. An anonymous envelope slipped under her apartment door, containing enough cash to cover the month's rent and a note scrawled in shaky handwriting that read simply, "For the kindness shown on a rainy day." Alara's hands trembled as she counted the bills, her mind racing with confusion and a flicker of suspicion. Who could this be from? She dared not question it too deeply, lest it vanish like a dream, using the money to stave off eviction and buy a few extra groceries that brought a rare smile to her mother's pale face. Then came the deliveries, boxes of fresh produce appearing on her doorstep, apples crisp as autumn air, vegetables vibrant and nourishing, far beyond what the food bank could provide. Her mother's health steadied slightly with the better nutrition, the coughs lessening to whispers, and Alara felt a cautious optimism bloom, though she attributed it to luck or perhaps a charitable neighbor. Suspense built in her chest like a gathering storm. Why her? What unseen force was at play? She confided in no one, fearing the aid would stop if spoken aloud, but each gift chipped away at her isolation, reminding her that the world might still hold unseen allies. Harlan, from his vantage on the farm, observed these ripples with a mixture of satisfaction and growing affection, his days now filled with purpose beyond the harvest. He hired a discreet investigator to delve deeper into Alara's life, uncovering the layers of her hardships, the medical bills piling like fallen leaves, the dreams of education deferred indefinitely, the quiet strength that kept her from breaking. Touched by her resilience, Harlan orchestrated more interventions, a scholarship application mysteriously approved for online courses in nursing, tailored to Alara's long-buried aspiration to help others heal as she wished she could for her mother. When the acceptance letter arrived, Alara sat at the kitchen table, tears streaming down her face, the paper clutched like a lifeline. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to envision a future not defined by scarcity, a life where she could afford treatments, perhaps even a small home with a garden where her mother could sit in the sun. Yet, doubt lingered. The anonymous benefactor remained a phantom, building tension in her heart as she wondered if this was a cruel jest or a genuine turning point. Harlan, wrestling with his own demons, debated revealing himself, his grief-stricken soul fearing vulnerability, but the pull of gratitude grew stronger, urging him toward a confrontation that would bridge their worlds. Spring arrived in Willow Creek like a hesitant promise, thawing the frozen earth and coaxing buds from dormant branches, mirroring the gradual thaw in Alara's fortunes. Her online classes became a sanctuary, hours stolen between jobs where she absorbed knowledge like rain on dry soil, her mind expanding with possibilities that once seemed as distant as stars. The anonymous gifts evolved, a new coat to replace her threadbare one, warm and lined with fleece that warded off the lingering chill. Then, a bicycle to ease her commutes, its shiny frame a symbol of mobility in a life long stagnant. Her mother's eyes brightened with each improvement, sharing stories of Alara's childhood kindnesses, how even as a toddler she'd share her last cookie with a stray cat, fostering a bond that deepened their emotional connection amid the changes. But challenges persisted. The diner's manager grew resentful of her divided attention, docking her pay and assigning grueling shifts that left her exhausted, her body aching as she balanced studies and survival. Suspense mounted as whispers spread through town. Who was aiding the Jenkins girl? Jealous eyes followed her, rumors swirling like eddies in the river, some accusing her of unsavory dealings, testing her resolve and forcing her to hold her head higher, her kindness undimmed despite the barbs. Harlan's internal struggle reached a crescendo as he watched from afar, his farmhands noticing the old man's softened demeanor, the way he'd stare out over the fields with a distant smile. Memories of his lost family haunted him less fiercely now, replaced by visions of Alara's future, a young woman whose selflessness echoed his wife's, deserving of the abundance he'd hoarded in solitude. He arranged for the most significant gift yet, a full payment of her mother's medical debts, delivered via a lawyer's letter that cited an anonymous donor fund for community heroes. When Alara opened it, her world tilted, sobs racked her body as relief flooded in, a dam breaking after years of holding back. Her mother, witnessing the moment, reached out with frail hands, their embrace a tapestry of shared tears and unspoken thanks. Yet, this act propelled Harlan toward revelation. He could no longer hide, the emotion too raw to contain. One crisp morning, he summoned the courage, driving his weathered truck into town, his heart pounding like thunder as he approached Alara's apartment, ready to unveil the truth and bridge the chasm between benefactor and beneficiary. The meeting unfolded in the soft light of Alara's modest living room, where the air hung heavy with the scent of brewing tea and unspoken questions. Harlan stood at the threshold, his hat twisted in gnarled hands, his voice steady despite the tremor in his frame as he recounted that rainy evening, how her simple act had reignited a spark in his withered soul. Alara listened, eyes widening in recognition, the pieces falling into place like puzzle fragments long scattered. Emotion swelled between them, gratitude mingling with Harlan's confessions of loneliness, his wealth a hollow crown without purpose until now. He offered more than money, a job on the farm, managing the community outreach programs he'd long neglected, a role that would allow her to channel her kindness into tangible change, perhaps even inheriting a portion of Whispering Acres one day as the daughter he'd lost. Tears flowed freely, not of sorrow but of profound connection, two lives intertwined by fate's gentle hand. Alara's struggles, once insurmountable mountains, now seemed surmountable hills, her future blooming with opportunities to heal, learn, and give back. As summer's warmth enveloped Willow Creek, Alara's transformation became the town's quiet legend, her days filled with purpose on the farm where she organized food drives for the needy, her mother's health improving under better care, their apartment traded for a cozy cottage on the estate's edge. Harlan found companionship in her presence, sharing stories of his past over evening suppers, his grief softening into cherished memories. The bond they forged was one of chosen family, a testament to how a single act of kindness could mend fractured hearts and rewrite destinies. Alara's resilience shone brighter, inspiring those around her to look beyond surfaces, to extend hands where once they'd turned away. The town, once indifferent, buzzed with renewed warmth, small acts of compassion rippling outward like stones in a pond. In the golden hues of a harvest sunset, as Alara walked the fields with Harlan, reflecting on the journey from that rainy crosswalk to this abundant life, she felt a deep, abiding peace, a sense that kindness, though often unseen, was the most powerful force in the universe. Her challenges had forged her into someone unbreakable, and in helping another, she'd unwittingly saved herself. If this tale of redemption and the unbreakable chain of kindness has touched your heart, stirring emotions that remind you of life's beautiful surprises, then please like this video, share it with a friend who could use some inspiration, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks for more stories that move the soul. And before we end, I'd love to hear from you. Comment below with your favorite line from this story, and let's keep the conversation of compassion going.